Good morning, traders. This is your daily market breakdown. On the GBP USD, we can quite clearly see that the trend has now changed into the downside. In fact, we could have confirmed this right up here at the top. I'm on the hourly time frame where we saw this change of character, full body break into the downside. The price then had a reaction within its potential demand zone, pushing the price up, failing to produce a new higher high, and now continuing into the downside. You can quite clearly see that I had entered into a shorting position during the live stream yesterday, and unfortunately I was stopped out just by a few pips, but it's okay. This is what happens when you adjust your stop loss mid-trade. So what we're seeing now is that the price is pushing down into this verified demand zone. What we expect to happen is the price is going to have a reaction within this zone. So on the lower time frames, I would be looking at potentially trading a bit of the pullback. And then once we see another break of structure into the downside on those lower time frames, then I can enter into another short position targeting these lower lows, going for a 1 to 3, 1 to 2.5 risk to reward ratio. What I ultimately think is going to happen, so if I zoom out to the 4-hourly frame, what ultimately I think is going to happen is the price is eventually going to come back down into this giant weekly demand zone, especially if the deal with between the US and Iran are not going well, then we're likely going to see this absolutely continue cascading into the downside. So I'm currently very bearish on GBP USD. Heading over to euro dollar, we can see a very similar pattern beginning to emerge. We have just been in this awful amount of consolidation throughout most of this week, so it's been a very frustrating time for any of you euro traders. But considering that we are also looking at a bearish British pound, then we're likely going to be looking at a bearish euro dollar. And so what we can quite clearly see is that the price is failing to break above these highs. It's failing to create new higher highs, and it's constantly being rejected back into the downside. We can now see on the 4-hour frame, there is a very nice full body candle break-in structure. What we may want to wait for is a slight pullback, maybe up to the weekly's open, and then I would be looking into shorting this currency pair into the downside, targeting this previous unverified daily demand zone down here. That would be my play on the euro dollar. Heading over to USD JPY, we can quite clearly see that it is playing out. It is now coming up even more to this zone that we have listed out over the last 2 weeks. What we're waiting for is when the price re-enters into this area, which is, I think, 160 area, and then we're likely going to see a very strong reaction into the downside. So what we could end up seeing, because we're on the 4-hourly frame, is that we're seeing a zone being formed here. What could happen is that the price would come up and then it would retrace back into that zone. That would be where my target would be if I'm going to enter into a shorting position on the JU. At this point in time, I don't even want to touch longs, even though if considering we were talking about longs all the way down here, considering it even would play out, just look at how choppy this is. I don't like it. It's a very uncertain market. I don't want to be playing with an uncertain market. But once the price does re-enter into that zone, then I will be looking for those long positions into the downside, and this around here would be my target before looking at anything else. Heading over to the DXY, so there's a lot of complex structure here. We do not need to go into it. I'm trying out a new trading strategy, hence these letters and numbers. But ultimately, what we're analyzing here is that the price is pushing into the upside. We are seeing a really nice, strong trend, bullish trend into that upside, breaking numerous piece of market structure. What's really frustrating is this consolidating market at the moment, and we're seeing these huge drops and then pushes, and this is largely driven by the sentiment, by the news between the US and Iran. Now, what we can see on the technicals is that we are in a bullish market. I don't know why a lot of the community is saying that DXY is down. It's not down, it's on its way up. And considering that we are looking for shorting positions on all of our major pairs, then this in turn should be going up. And so what we expect to see is that price will have a choppy road up into the upside. And I put down these 3 potential areas for where the price may end up either signaling a potential reversal or a very deep pullback while up. So there's quite a long gap here, and I haven't really worked out what between this price and this price, how it's going to look. But this is, or if the trend continues into the upside, this is where the next pit stops are going to be for the DXY before pushing down. Unless we see a break of structure where this B is, if we see a break of structure of this B, then everything changes and I need to reevaluate my technical analysis. But at this point in time, I am looking at a bullish DXY. Heading over to gold USD, again, from the live stream, we knew the price was going to be going down. It has done exactly what we were looking at. We can quite clearly see now a really nice breakish structure there. We'll likely see a little bit more of a push before seeing a pullback, probably to this level. If the DXY is pushing itself up aggressively, which we expect to do, I would then start looking for shorting positions from this zone here. So if the price, if gold does retrace back into the zone, I'd be looking at doing something such as this, not a 1-to-6 risk to reward ratio. Of course not, it'll be a 1-to-2.5, but this will be the potential setup I'll be looking for. So I'll be waiting because it's now entered into this verified demand zone. There is likely going to be a reaction with the price. So that means it's going to push the price back up to a certain point. This would be the point where I would analyze as being the ideal point where it would retrace to, and then I'll be looking for shorting positions. So still very bearish on gold USD for this week heading into next week. Looking at BTC USDT, yeah, like I said on the live stream, that we are now in somewhat of a risk-off market, whereby quite a lot of Bitcoin holders for some reason are liquidating their accounts, so pushing the price down, putting a lot of pressure on that price. So like I said on the live stream, I still expect that BTC is going to push up in the long run, and I wouldn't be surprised if this year we click the 90K mark, but I don't know where the price is likely going to end up. So what I've listed out here are these potential areas for where a reversal might occur. So what we're already seeing here is a little bit of price action, that there is a reaction to this previous, I think this is a previous daily demand zone. So what I'll be looking for is what happens on the lower time frames. Does this begin pushing itself back up? If it begins pushing itself back, then I'm going to wait for another pullback, and I'm going to wait to see if this then gets broken. If this gets broken, then okay, we're just going to continue down here. If it doesn't get broken and instead that gets broken, then okay, now we're going to start looking for those long positions again. At this point in time, I'm not entering into this market. That would we're not seeing a very clear direction occurring, even though we are going into the downside. But look, we are entering into these high probability regions where a pullback might occur or a reversal could happen. So there it is, traders. A lot of information there, but that is your daily market breakdown.